Hello, this is Kostas from Greece. What can I say about Gama? Creative, always full of ideas, and loads of energy.
Gama is human.
Just like anyone else, but he understands and embraces life. He doesn't fight against it.
Gama is a visionary.
Gama is piercing.
Dancer.
Gama is authentic.
Mr. Gama is passion.
He's literally the smartest person I've ever met.
Gama is just fearless.
Gama is unique.
So why Gama? He's not a single teacher though. He's a mentor who teaches you how to live properly, freely, happily.
The sun begins to rise on a 4 degrees Celsius Sunday. We then remember our bodies entangled as the roots of the emery oak right across from us. Waking up is the hardest part. To decide is to live, but to maintain is to die. You see, time ticks continuously. Whether you realize it or not, whether you want it or not, it ain't about faults, assaults, obviously. We can't fly. We've tried. Although, when we dream, not referring to you and me, I mean me. You. The individual behind the words. Sure feels like home. Sure feels like we're free. Free falling, free base, free born, free hearted, free loaded, free thinking on a freeway en route towards freedom. Here, I begin to question the headlines of our lives. I decide to abandon the thoughts on giving my best ears to a stranger and a selfish cause. I maintain nothing because waking up is the hardest part. Woke up to an empty bed. No dreams, no words today. No image of that place we met. Not even pictures, only memories. But that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. I still feel your skin. It's like yesterday, it never for sure we know they should have never let us go. But I'm sure I'll be alright, 'cause you left something behind. Your heart right next to mine, and that's okay.
All right, buddy. So what's up? What brings you here?
Bro, I just want to know.
What do you want to know, bro? Bring it.
I want to know about the Untamed soul, like how you came across that concept per se. Like, when was the first time you got the word Untamed and soul all together? Did it, like, it came across your mind for the first time?
That's a big question. It's a combination of things, you know. If you pay attention to just the simple definition of untamed, it's gonna be deconstructed into three pieces, you know. If we look at it, it's domesticated.
Yeah.
It's to reduce your power in order to take, you know, easier control over whatever you are doing. And the last one is to cultivate. And this last one is the one that messes my head, you know, and this is the one that really captured me because I'm an educator. And so as an educator, I understand that we have the responsibility to cultivate through education or through school.
Exactly.
So I was starting to pay attention that the result in our society is a bunch of people that are really not connecting with who they are, and they're acting based on something that someone has cultivated. And so this is where I understood that we are tamed as a society, as a citizen, as an individual. Therefore, we are very distant from who we are, meaning we don't have an identity. And this is where the soul part comes in, you know? They preach that we're all the same and that we are all equal, as if that is something strong. It's not a signal of strength, it's a signal of weakness to be afraid of who we are and to be different. The power lies in our differences, not in our, you know, similarities, exactly. It's about being unique. The problem is that school is looking to create like this little freaking maquila or a factory where we are producing hand labor, man. That's what it is.
Like back in the day, you know, like in the Industrial Revolution, like labor.
It's exactly the same thing, but it's different in terms of the job opportunities, but the game is the same. It hasn't changed. So where I found myself very intrigued about this is when I started noticing that the responsibility in my hands as an educator had to go beyond just giving a class. Because if I just gave a class and complied with the material they would give me, then I was contributing with the things that I was looking at that are wrong.
And this is what really caught up my attention at first, that the fact that you said how in the classroom, like, well, in classrooms all over the world, not just in here, like in Mexico.
Definitely.
But I'm talking about how the teacher, you made the point that he doesn't know who their audience is. Obviously, it's students, right? But they don't know about anything related to the identity of these students. Whether they like this or they like that, or what they enjoy doing, or what they aspire to.
I'll take it even a step further. Yeah. The educator doing this doesn't even know who his own identity is. You see, identity is defined as sameness, oneness. It means one thing matches another. What are these two things that match? Well, the life that is inside of me, who I am truly on the inside, this world that only exists because I am here, must mirror the life I create outside.
But what, like, all right, I get that reflection that you want to go from internal to external, right? Mm-hmm. But like in a nutshell, how does an identity comes out? You know what I mean? Like, how does your soul reflects what you really are to the outside world? That's what I like kind of messes up with my head a little bit, because I'm not in the same page as you yet. That's what I want. You know, I want to.
It should mess you up a lot, not a little. So you're on the right track.
Actually, it does a lot, not a little. It kind of like get into one of these time machines and go back, because it's something that's very unique and precise to get to. You know what I mean? Like,
it is. Here's the thing, man. I always use this example. You see, if you plant a seed of a flower, and so I open up the land, right, the soil, I put in the seed, put it back, put some manure, which is shit, really. I water it, take care of it. My job, my responsibility can only be, you know, this is my limit. It can only be about taking care of the context and the surrounding, the environment, so that the life inside this flower could blossom.
Okay.
My job, my responsibility cannot even touch the actual life that flourishes from this seed. You see? So what we do in our lives is exactly the same. Your question is about the life that flourishes. We're very little, we're small, we're not that bright.
Yeah.
But I can understand conditions and surroundings, this environment where life can flourish a lot easier and better. So instead of asking yourself such a big question, because I don't have an answer, what I can answer is, what are those needs, those elements that will allow the life to flourish? So my identity has always been there. The problem is that everything I do in my day-to-day takes me away from looking at it. If you pay attention to a kid, I mean, you have a brother.
Yeah.
I mean, you were raised by the same parents. But when you look at you and your brother, you're so different.
They're two different personalities.
And how is that so? If you were raised under the same roof, under the same parents, you're different, you're unique. And so maybe it's just an example. Maybe you're more inclined towards a mathematical perspective. Maybe he's more inclined to an expressive, which means probably arts.
Yeah.
We're different, we're unique. But school is taking us away from that, because if you are more inclined towards mathematics and I'm more inclined to the arts, we're going to have to go through the same freaking curriculum, the whole process. Like, I'm not going to have a choice until I'm 18 and I can go to college or university. But then you have a bunch of limitations where they say you have the free will to choose whatever, you know, degree or class you want.
Yeah.
But if they're giving you the options, then you're not really choosing. You're choosing what they told you that you could choose.
Yeah, you got these options. You got to decide between what you got up here in the table.
And so when are you going to find your identity? How the hell are you going to build the life that you should? How are you going to match your identity, you know, the life that is inside with the one that you have to create outside, if everything around you is taming you, controlling you in a way to not find that? I'll give you an example. In my case, and I mentioned this on the book, I know you read it. When I was 17, 16, I was going through this crisis of just going through the motions, as they say, going through school, and it was just so easy, and everything was so repetitive, and I felt like I was
missing
being
something, probably, yeah.
And even worse, not just missing, but I felt like something was suffocating me, like this. I can't say it in other ways. This fucking life that I was living was just consuming the best of me, man. And so the way I saw it was, okay, I stay on this track, that yellow brick road that I always talk about. I follow the path, you know, after this I go to, you know, this, and I'm going to do college, then I'm going to get a good job, I might get, you know, a good girl, I'm going to build my family, I'm going to grow old, I'm going to have grandkids, I'm going to retire, get my pension, watch my grandkids, you know, live, grow,
typical, yeah.
And then it's over, right? But I was 16, 17, I could already see that was my path. I was like, man, that's no fun. Where's the surprise, right? So at the same time, I'm not dissing the people that decide that. It's just, it wasn't connecting. It wasn't, vibrating with who I was on the inside.
Absolutely. I've been there too, man. Like when I was back in school, I mean, you know me from way back.
Yeah.
I used to coach me basketball. I was just like, all right, I'm gonna finish high school, but as a ticket to leave town, you know what I mean?
Of course,
as
yeah.
a passage that I have to complete in order to get away from here because I want to do something else with my life instead of, deciding for a career that I'm not very willing to study, for example, in this case. So it was like, why am I doing a fool of myself? You know what I mean? Why am I fooling myself? So it was just like, I don't know, I have to find what I really like. And then in my case, it happened to be food, right? I'm foodie, so I became passionate about food. Then I shifted my whole purpose towards what I liked in that case. But still, it turned out it wasn't my real, something that I really identify with food, but it wasn't a whole identity based around that concept, you know what I mean? It's so much things that we can gather for oneness, for sameness, for the concept of identity. And it really caught up my attention when you wrote, I think it was chapter 3, short questions.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2, I'm sorry. That it was, you wrote, and I can quote you on that it was a matter of waiting for life to happen, literally, just because we live, right now, we live in a one-click society, fast-paced, fast food, fast fashion. Everything's fast, right? And you said, and I got the quote right here, just give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
So I got do you define identity, and after that, you say, just like the seasons of our planet are evidence of a moving sphere, the seasons of a social being's life prove that we're moving. The only problem is they might not be moving us in the direction we wish for, okay? But after that, you elaborate on a very attractive concept in terms of that it actually caught up my attention a lot. It's a very interesting point. Okay, I got it right here. Okay. The learning process oscillated between my utmost intentions of having a higher access to useful information and my on-the-spot capacity, or lack of, to be patient. And here's the catch, man. I'm a very impatient person, right? And what an epic battle you added. And this particularly grabbed my attention because, as I mentioned, everything's so fast-paced right now. How am I willing to wait for whatever it takes? Because we don't have an answer, right? To get there by just letting life slip by. How do you balance your time and who you are right now with your goals towards the future? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Here's the thing, though. If you plant an apple seed today and you wake up looking for the freaking tree and the apple's hanging from the tree, you would think what of yourself?
This is not working.
Right? You don't get it. You don't understand that it takes time. Life is the same way. The education that we are suffering, the one that we have to go through, is goal-oriented. Okay? Which means that I got a carrot in front of me and I got to chase it. Right? Whatever it is, if it's grades, if it's an exam, if it's passing, if it's moving on from 6 to 7, whatever it is. And we don't understand that the value is actually in the process. You see, in school they grade you based on how high you actually reach that goal. But they don't give a shit about the process. Life is not about the goal, it's about the process. So what the fuck are we educating you for? It's not life. You see, education is based on perfection, and we treasure perfection. That's why we give 10s to people that are perfect, and we give a 5 to people that are not. I'll tell you one thing, there's a big mistake. You know what is perfect? Death. It has never missed.
There's no doubt about that.
It has never missed one. Nobody has eluded or escaped.
Not yet.
Not yet. That means that death is perfect oriented. Life is not. It's made of flaws.
Mistakes
and so the process is what really contains the beauty of life. That is life. It's not the goal. And so how do you, an impatient person, understand that life will teach you? It doesn't need you to be patient. If you're patient or if you're not, life is going to take whatever it needs to take anyway. You need to start changing the way you see who you are, where you stand. Because where you stand now, this conversation could either be the question or the answer for a question that is yet to come.
Exactly.
And life is very like that, okay? When you talk about the 4 seasons of the planet, you're quoting me on the book. Yeah, it means, it's evidence that the planet is spinning, right? It's moving.
Yep.
The seasons of a social being's life are also evidence that we're moving. Why don't they move us in the direction that we wish to? Because we don't understand what they are. If you and I, okay, let's say that you come from a different dimension or planet or whatever. You don't have the seasons that we do, spring, fall, all this. And you land here in the summer. Oh, you're going to be wearing your shorts. You're going to build a house with no windows so that the air can come in, right? Shirtless, tank tops, boom, you're good to go. You don't understand that eventually it'll be winter. And so it's going to get chilly, and then it's going to get cold, and then if you're in Toronto, then it's going to get really cold. And what we do when we don't understand the seasons is we start, probably blaming God. Oh, it's because, I misbehaved. He probably doesn't love me. That's why I'm suffering, because everybody looks okay.
Kind of like Mario complex going on.
It is. And so without understanding that winter is a station that is always going to come. So can you really change the winter? No. Can you be prepared for it? Hell yeah. Because if I got my sweater, if I got my little quilt and some hot cocoa, buddy, woo!
I'm going to have a hell of a winter.
I'm good to go. I'm not going to be looking at God like, oh, you messed me up. Or I'm not going to look at my neighbor and say, it's your fault. I'm having
a blast. Living your best life, yeah.
Because you understand that. So you see the 4 stations or the 4 seasons of our social being's life are identity. You need to have it. Because after identity comes intuition. Your intuition is the voice of your identity.
The inner voice.
It is. So that's why people don't trust their intuition, because it always takes them in the wrong path because they don't have an identity. It's not clear. Yeah. But once you match that, then your intuition is very trustworthy, man. After that, the 3rd station or the 3rd season is exploration. You see, you have an identity. There's a need for your identity, so you got to go out there and find it.
Yeah.
Right? You go out there and you're looking and you're experimenting.
Basically, you live.
You're experiencing that. Exactly. You're coming into contact with things. But the last one is the most important one, which is our winter, man. This is the one we suffer for the most. This is the one we complain about the most, which is failure.
This? Say again?
Failure.
Failure. Yeah.
You gotta fail.
You gotta fail.
And what we don't understand is basically we're ignoring the benefits of failure. And this is very simple. When you fail at whatever it is, the first thing you start thinking, and this is like, it comes natural. You don't even have to understand. Yeah, but then the second is,
how am I going to grow?
There we go. What did I do wrong?
Exactly.
Right? So failures, what it does is, the failure is there to serve as evidence that because you had an identity, and then you had an intuition, and then you explored, that means you already moved from point A to point B to point C to point D, which also means that your identity, the one you started with, is not the same as it is now. So failure is the moment of telling you gotta stop, buddy. You gotta stop and readjust your identity. And then if you understand that this process is natural, in failure, what you do is you readjust who you are. And then once you do, then your intuition is, back in action, and it's very trustworthy, and then you explore, and then you live, and then you evolve, and you change, and then you fail. Fail is reminding you. It's a cycle, man.
How do you call this again?
It's the seasons of a social being's life. Okay, so that's what it is, man.
Which is, let's just go back there.
Identity, intuition, exploration, and failure. That's our winter. And so, so for example, this last year, I'm talking about 2019, in the summer, it's like when people dedicate their lives to agriculture, there's a smell that they can pick up and say, it's going to rain. Forecast doesn't say it. It's not cloudy. They can smell it. Their senses are so, heightened. Yes,
they got it.
That they can pick it up. So 2019, same thing. In the summer, I was in a meditation center, and I could smell it. I could smell my winter coming, which means my failure. And so I had a year to prepare, and then it came, and
you did.
And I failed, but I had my quilt, I had my hot cocoa, and I'm having a blast, man. Because I had to readjust my identity.
It's a great perspective to look at it that way, in my opinion.
It changes everything.
Going back to the education sphere, it caught up my mind too a lot when you said that the environment during the classroom, inside of the classroom, going back to that, it's very stressful. The communication between the teachers, who once again, they don't know their audience, like who they are, is failed
miserably.
Yeah, very ineffective, right? So here's the thing, like as a kid, like if I was, 12 years old again, if I'm under this stressful circumstances, right? And I know this cycle, but still I don't have, I'm trying to get by school, I'm trying to do my homework, my assignments done, everything, get together and get it done. If I'm under a stressful environment, which is the school itself, and under miscommunication, kind of like relation with my teachers, counselors or whatever, how would you advise a little kid to get that situation further, and then learn from that? Like, how would tell them to hold on, that's life. Like, what would do under that circumstance?
Well,
in your case?
Well, look, it's very interesting because what school is doing is, first of all, it consumes 8 hours of your day, which means that's a third, right? It's a third of your day, bro.
Just in school.
Yeah, just in school. So it's a lot of time that they're feeding your brain, and they're programming you to behave and act one way or another. I mean, the system is perfect, bro. Where they
it gives me chills. I was like very impatient, like doing my feedback.
And that is a signal
anxiety.
It's a signal of a bad kid that wants to move, bro. Look at them. The kids are telling you that they need something.
Remember that last hour, like before the break, like vacations coming. That last hour was
long. It is, yeah. So my recommendation is they would have to get some kind of training too, because you see.
What kind of training though? Like, what I'm trying to say here is like, what kind of not training, but the tools, the mindset you would advise this kid, not the teachers to put them like onto the system, but the kid itself.
Yeah. So when I was in school as a teacher, I tried my best, man. I tried for a couple of years.
I reckon that.
For a couple of years.
Respect.
Thank you, bro. To change the system from within, but you're still playing the same game. So then I started realizing that I was maybe helping a lot of people, but very little. Mm-hmm. And I was a lot more interested in maybe helping very little people, but a lot. Okay. And so I knew that my failure had to be from within. So I needed to fail as a teacher that belonged to the system. Because once I accepted that failure, then I was going to be able to leave and create something that is not that. And we did, which is I Am Human. And we created this it's a group. It's like a family where people that feel the same way that you and I, and maybe that 12-year-old that you're talking about, we feel the same way. So we created a space where we're showing you that there's different approaches towards education. You see, school and education are two different things. School is an organization, very successful. It's a business, right?
Institution,
yeah. But education is an organism. It's alive.
It's a practice. You wrote that too. I guess.
And it's a happening, and it doesn't repeat itself. And so we're approaching education from a school perspective, which means as an organization. The example is, you as a teacher have to plan the whole year in advance before you even knowing who the fuck are your kids. How am I going to develop a program if I don't even know your personality? I don't know what you like. I don't know how many boys, how many girls. Is it going to be more masculine, more feminine? Is it going to be more practical?
You just stick to a book, right?
And now I got to follow the whole thing. So I become prisoner of my own planning. And now I got somebody busting my chops if I detour from the program. So I knew I couldn't be successful within, so I had to fail. Okay. I did. So now I'm creating this other thing. The first thing is identity, right? And you need tools where you can actually
find it out.
Look at yourself. You see, even school and parents and everything around us explain as much as possible about the world outside. But it doesn't work if they don't show us about the one that is actually out in the world. You see, if I tell you, can you see me? You say yes. If I say, point to where you see me, you will point, right? You will point in front of you. But the reality is you don't see in front of you, you see within you. So if this applies for this case, then it also applies for the rest of your life. School, at least the general system, has no attention towards the one that is actually observing. And the first thing I could tell you is you got to find a tool, either through meditation or there's other also practical tools that you can spend time and kind of zone out of everything. But by disconnecting from everything, you're going to connect to the only thing that matters, because you can't perceive life from any other perspective other than this one.
This is very interesting. I actually just I came across meditation during quarantine recently. So I was talking about in I Am Human. You got a course like 100 days of meditation, right? How do you encourage people under that program to find themselves within meditation?
For me, it was either I die slowly and follow the yellow brick road, or I die eventually, but at least I try. And for me, it has always been like that. It's if I stay here, I will consume myself. If I do this, I might not even make it to my 20s. People would say when I was 17, because I dropped out, everybody would say, you're not going to survive. My parents would say, you're probably going to end up being a janitor, like if it was a bad thing. But, they would say that. And I've traveled the world, man, over 20, 25 countries. I don't know. I've given lectures and won, awards, international awards, in front of people that have PhDs on education. And I'm a 4th semester dropout.
You deserve a fucking standing ovation right now for that.
But here's the thing. It serves as evidence that it's a lot more important to be connected with this one than with the outside. Because it doesn't work the other way, bro. If I tap into this, then automatically I tap into everything. Because this is what is actually out there. I can't go out without this. So the funny part is that for vast majority of my years working, nobody ever asked for any document, bro. At all. Now,
diploma,
nothing.
Really?
I would kill the interview, I would get the job, and then the rest is history. Nobody would ever doubt that I skipped school because of the way I approached life and the way I spoke. And But I didn't pick that up in school, man. I dropped out of school. My parents said, you can't live here anymore because you dropped out. So then leave.
Yeah.
So then I had to leave. So I'm 17, just kind of, on my own. And so for me, it was do or die. So when you ask me, what is my advice for those kids that if you're planning on taking like some after school thing to get better with life, it doesn't work that way. Life is a lifetime project. It's not about 5 minutes. Don't tell me, give me 3 tips to, life doesn't work that way. I'll give you an example. I gave a lecture a couple of weeks or months ago for like, it was more than 18 countries, and it was about education. So the slogan, the lecture was called Say Yes to Education, but yes means IES, Inspire, Explore, Share, right? But the slogan was, because I remember I make a separation between school and education. So I would say, fuck school, but say yes to education. Like that was the slogan of that talk, right? So I gave this lecture with teachers. And at the end, it is, man. You could see everybody's like eyes were like, oh, he did not just say that, because it's like an official channel. So the person that was the moderator of that whole, intervention asked me at the end, out of everything you just said, can you give us one advice? Give us one advice that will make us better educators.
And what did you say?
I said, my advice is to not ask for one advice that can change it all. Because it's about life. If you're not life invested, right, it's never going to work. So if it's not do or die for you, then it means you're not ready for this. It's not your turn yet. Because this is something serious. It's like becoming a parent and you're not willing to go through the 25 years of this kid that is going to need you basically from top to bottom for at least 20 years. If you're not ready, then you shouldn't be a parent. And so here's the same thing. You shouldn't be asking like, how can I improve my life if you're not willing to make sacrifices. You have to look for it. You have to need it, like air.
You have to search for it, yeah.
If I wrap a freaking plastic bag around your head, of course, I wouldn't do that, but if I would you just sit there? Hell no, you would fight with everything you had to just rip it up and breathe. If you're not ready to do that, then you're not ready to take control over your life. And that is the problem. That is also the reason why school, capitalism, and any other instrument of power that you want to throw out there, and this is not throwing shit at them, it's just the way it is.
It's not this, it's just
at all.
stating facts.
And for some people, it's going to work, man. It's going to be perfect because they're not there yet. They need somebody to guide them. It's okay. But I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the people that feel like going through that process is not enough. I'm speaking to them. And until it's really about do or die, then you're not ready.
That's deep, man. Talking about chapter 4, Am I Alone? The name of the chapter, right? I read how you got into like interviews with people that have been through something similar to your journey of finding yourself, right? And I was thinking like, man, you got me into the paper like, am I alone? Like in this kind of thinking, in this mindset, and going back to what you just said, like nobody asks you for a paper in any interview about whether you have a formal education or not. And I think that in this era in time, it's just becoming more and more common for people to succeed like that. You know what I'm saying? And like in the future, how do you see like the dogma per se of education wrapping up around that whole subject of, is the diploma, the certificate, the title worth it in order to get this like kind of like afterlife from education? Because people do really think about education as a phase, not as a long lifetime project, but just like as 4 years that I'm going to study this and that. You know, of course, previous 12 years of, you know, institutionalized education. How do you see the future coming up to this thing of education?
It's exactly like what you're doing. You're educating yourself on a very complex topic, and it happened because you decided with your instinct, with your intuition.
Right.
Everybody, because I don't know you that well in terms of like your family, but I don't think your parents gave a green light on, okay, yeah, you can drop out and go do your thing. And
of course
no, they're not, because they were programmed a different way. Yeah. I see the future just like I see you in front of me. People taking the responsibility for their education. School offers teaching, yes, but you can get teaching anywhere. What is lacking is learning.
All right.
And learning is in my hands, in your hands. Whatever I pick up is in my hands, not yours. And right now what we're doing, because it's easier, I'm throwing it to you. So I pay you how much? Okay, I'll pay you 4,000 pesos a month. And now you are responsible for my responsibility. Doesn't work that way, buddy.
Well, it supposedly does, but it doesn't. It should not.
But then, right now you have a lot of companies that they get your resume and they throw it in the trash, and then so you got to go through a different process because they don't recognize university documents anymore, because we have lowered the standard of preparation. So that doesn't even work. If you have a cert that says that you're an engineer, most likely you are a certified dumbass. And what that means is that you're not prepared. You're officially, I gave you a cert that certifies you not being prepared for life.
You don't have the experience for all these.
No, not even. I mean, if you are an engineer and you go to a factory, they're not going to give you one of the high-end positions. No. Never. But they should. You're coming out fresh. Yeah. And you're coming out fresh from like the freaking core of the nucleus. But nobody trusts that process. So then why do we continue to play the game? And a lot of people might say, well, nobody's going to get a job without a diploma. Man, I'm 35 and I've been rocking it all over the globe. I understand the game now. And I have acquired certifications and these accolades that nobody can deny, my knowledge. So now I have the experience first. And I also have the papers like a Boy Scout. I got all my insignias and, banners hanging. But I really don't give a shit about them. It's not.
They don't really mean anything else from the fact that you've been there.
And I mean, they don't mean anything because there's a lot of people that also went through that process and they're not doing the things I'm doing. I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just saying the paper is not what really,
supposedly is.
Takes the action. It's just the paper.
Exactly.
The action comes within.
Right.
So why the hell am I working outside? I got to work within, man. And that is also one of the reasons why I didn't finish the book. And I know you know
I was wondering, why in the hell chapter 5 is just unfinished business. Like if you were LeBron and you say the job's not done yet, why though?
Because you've heard me. I don't think education is doing us right by only focusing on content and information, leaving out context and inspiration, right? I can find content and information anywhere. I can pull out my phone and probably get better information and content than the teacher, easily, right? Because I know how to search better than the adults, because this is my era.
It's a skill, yeah.
Right? So if I would start and finish a book, I'm only giving you content, right? Because between cover and cover, it's just a bunch of text. And it's very sensory limited. I'm only giving you a visual device.
It's limited value that you can get from there.
Yeah, it's very limited. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge that is in your head that came through a piece of paper, but when it comes to reacting in a live scenario, you don't react like the piece of knowledge that you have in your head. I'll give you an example. You and I understand that everything is passing us by and that we're all going to die eventually, But if, you and I can talk about it and you and I can understand that. But if somebody, and I hope this doesn't happen, but if you get a phone call right now and somebody you love dearly dies, you're not going to say, oh, look, we were talking about this. You're not going to be able to react that way with the information that you have because it's just information. Why is the book not finished? Because I want you to get your ass off the chair and to go live the incidents of life. Right. You see, this conversation itself is part of the book. If you see the last pages, it says, send an email.
Oh yeah.
With the text saying, I want to live chapter 5, and you won't regret it because it's a seminar. Okay. It means I want you to invest some hours in you. And I want you to understand the seasons of a social being's life, but not from a theoretical point. I want you to go through a process where you can live it. And the last season is failure, and it hurts. But within pain, there's a lot of knowledge, man. And we have to stop being afraid of failing, because if we continue, then we're going to continue living this life that is empty. It is empty because without the bruises and the bumps, we're really not experiencing anything. And we're only chasing a carrot. And the carrot is not the goal, man. That's not where the treasure lies. It's in the process. So we always say we have to be in the pursuit of happiness instead of finding happiness with the pursuit. And the pursuit of that process, is to become an untamed soul through incidental education.
To unleash yourself. And
take them off and go out and live, man. That's what life is about. Bro. Respect, bro.
You too, man. Big time.